Yo, so it turns out this aspect and this aspect work super good together. So what ends up happening is when you have enough mana reduction, the recharging aspect will actually generate a surplus of mana. And with a little bit of max mana from either our paragon or some gear, we can actually stay above 100 mana at all times, which means we always get the crit chance. So that, combined with stacking crit chance on your gloves and your rings and your offhand, you can get into the 90s as far as crit chance goes. I think I'm at like upper 80s for this build, but then you can also use an elixir to kind of film the difference. So with that in mind, the way this build works is we use lightning spear, because lightning spear, once upgraded, will stun on crit, and since we basically have a guaranteed crit, we have a guaranteed stun. And then we use chain lightning paired with shared misery in order to spread the stun to everything on the screen. So basically we can just stun everything infinitely forever, except for elites, because they get unstoppable sometimes, but honestly you can stun them for a pretty long time too. So the gear I'm running for this actually isn't the best for this build, but it works well enough. It's just I don't have like crazy max rolls on everything. But with that said, as you can see, it still works pretty well. But anyways, for helm, I was just looking for more defensive stats like total armor as well as max health. I have ranks in lightning spear, but you don't really need them because we don't rely on them for damage. That comes from chain lightning. We use it mostly to constantly stun things. And for the aspect, we're running Mage Lord just to give us more damage reduction and survivability, because we are going to be running Veer's Mastery as our passive. It's the same story for the chest piece too. We're looking for damage reduction. I have damage reduction from close as well as burning, then also max life. Basically we just want to not die. That's why we're stacking so much damage reduction. And for the aspect, we're running deflecting barrier, another defensive. Well, I mean obviously it's a defensive one because you can only put them on the chest, but it'll help with just mitigating some more damage. I think it kind of acts like dodge, giving us a chance to just ignore damage while we have a barrier, which is good. So these gloves are actually from my last build, but we actually don't need Frozen Orb. What I think would be better here is crit chance, lightning crit damage, intelligence, and chain lightning. And we're also running Exploiter's aspect. The reason being is that we're going to be stunning a lot, and I figured increasing our duration by 20% on a stun is pretty good. Plus, this will give us a damage boost when, like, for example, an elite becomes unstoppable. That way we don't experience a damage fall off. Alright, so pants, same story as the helm and the chest. We just want as much damage reduction as we can get. Like, I'm not sure if there's a cap on damage reduction, but I feel like more is better. In terms of aspect, we're running Snowveil. So Snowveil will give ice armor unstoppable, which means we'll have 3 ways to break out a hard CC, which is good for us. For boots, I think mana cost reduction as well as move speed are like primo stats. I like ranks and ice armor, but I think intelligence would be better in place of teleport. So we actually got shared misery on the boots. And what this does, if you don't know, is it's what allows us to chain these stuns to other enemies when we attack. So all the stats for my wand are actually pretty good. A lot of crit damage, core skill damage, intelligence. The only thing I would swap out would be maybe the all stat for like lightning critical, but honestly all stat's good too. So, and for the aspect, we're running control because we stun a lot, and this lets us do more damage to stun targets. Alright, for jewelry, we'll start with amulet. You definitely want mana cost reduction, like trying to get the cost of your chain lightning as low as you can in order for your recharging aspect to generate mana is like the most important part in order to keep our mana pool above 100 mana. at all times so that we benefit from the aspect. Also, ranks in Devouring Blaze are pretty important too. We want crit damage because we're going to be critting everything. The only thing I'd swap out on this amulet would be damage reduction for move speed. Then I already showed you this aspect, but I just want to say it again. This is where the elementalist aspect will be going. So this is what's going to allow us to get so much crit chance as long as we stay above 100 mana. And for the rings, what we're pretty much looking for is crit chance, critical strike damage, lightning critical strike damage, lucky hit chance, and max mana depending on how much mana cost reduction you have. So this is where you have to do some math depending on like what you rolled for your recharging aspect and like what you rolled for your mana cost reduction. But so like for example, my recharging aspect will generate 2.5 mana per bounce of chain lightning. So assuming my chain lightning bounces the full 5 times, I'll get 12.5 mana back. So I'll need to get the cost of my chain lightning to 22 mana or less in order to cast chain lightning for free. And the reason being is because you have like a base of 10 mana regen per second. So the 10 plus the 12.5 you get back from casting makes up the cost of chain lightning. So for second ring, same story, just all the crit. But for the aspect, we're actually running Unbroken Tether, which will give chain lightning an additional chance to bounce off 4 extra targets, which means more mana for us. This will just help with like inconsistencies with chain lightning not bouncing correctly. Like for example, sometimes you'll fight elites with the suppressor modifier, and what will happen is you'll cast it inside the bubble, the chain lightning will bounce outside, then try to come back in and then get dispelled, so you don't get any more bounces. So no more mana from that. So this will just kind of help alleviate that. And finally, for offhand, what you want to look for is mana cost reduction, cooldown reduction, crit chance, and lucky hit chance. The offhand I have isn't really that great for this build, but it works. And we're running the accelerating aspect to get a boost in attack speed from critting with our core skill, which we'll be doing a lot of. As far as like gems and hearts go, we'll be running sapphires in the weapons, rubies in the armor, and then we're running Barber, Tempting Fate, and Talrasha, because they are just the best sorcerer like hearts. So as you can see, the build does work pretty well. Like, you CC everything, eventually they die. Your time to kill is kind of like high, but that's okay because they can't really do too much to you. The only thing you gotta watch out for are elites. Like, I'm pretty sure I do die in this run to like an on-death fireball. Well, it gets like doubled up with another fireball and I couldn't tell, and they just fucking one-shot me. So you can die even with all the damage reduction, just heads up. If you want to try the build for yourself, I left a link in the description to the build planner that I put together. It has everything laid out, like the perfect version of this, along with the skills and the paragon tree all did up for you. But yeah, that's the build. Let me know if you guys have played anything like remotely similar to this or have used these aspects together. I think they'd probably work in a lot of other builds too. But I'm gonna stop talking now, and you guys can watch the rest of the run if you want, or if you want to check out the paragon tree and skill tree, look at the build planner in the description. Alright, thanks.
I need time to prepare. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet.